Here we go again, guys. And today I was thinking I would cover the girls that I did interact with through my life and how it all came to naught. So, I was actually very popular with girls when I was like young. Like when I was in first, second grade, stuff like that. I hardly even had any guy friends. Like all my friends were girls. And I didn't even think anything of it at the time. Uh, Looking back on it, I think my parents thought it was weird because they try and arrange like play dates for me with like guys or something to break the habit, but I didn't, I don't know that I didn't have to, with girls, like girls would, you know, they're the social butterflies. They're the ones that would like, at least at the time, interact with you and then you could follow up. I've always been uncomfortable, initiating contact with people, so I never really did it. But when I was in like second grade, I had a friend that was a girl, and it wasn't like sexual or anything at that age, but like I'd want to hang out with this girl every day. I'd like walk across a couple blocks to go to her house and go see her, and I think my mother didn't like that. I think for one reason or another, she didn't like this girl. And wasn't too long after, maybe 6 months after I started doing that, we moved to another province. And kind of more of the same. I I end up at a new school, beginning of third or fourth grade, and uh, my brother is like playing on the hockey team. I wasn't really I played some sports, but I didn't like organized sports. I didn't playing as a team largely not really my thing. And my brother played with the younger brothers of a girl that was in my grade. So uh, oftentimes like the hockey practice would be while my dad was at work, and my mom didn't want to leave me at home when I was that age, so she dragged me along to my brother's hockey practice. And I'd like, do whatever, try and kill the time while I was watching the hockey stuff. And after a little bit of time doing that, this girl from my class started showing up there, and we kind of gravitated towards one another because like both of our brothers were playing hockey. But was kind of like a red flag with this girl. She was nice or whatever. Um, I think I'll include names now that I think about it. Not last names, but uh, the girl before I moved to another province. I still remember these girls' names. I remember her name was Claire. I always thought that was a pretty name. Um, the one that would be at the hockey practices was named Taylor, and we'd kind of like hang out a bit, but like I knew this girl from school, and the thing about this sort of stuff is like I've always had kind of a I don't know, I think it's a curse honestly, but it feels like the ability to see into the future. I describe it as being a crash test dummy. You're conscious but powerless to stop the wall you're going to slam into. Well aware of what's going to happen, but you can't really do anything about it. So, I noticed even as a kid, like, this girl basically didn't really interact with me that much at school. She'd interact with other guys, and then she'd want to interact with me when we were there, but I think it was more like I was just, convenient to her. And yeah, I didn't I didn't really want to follow it up because of that. And again, like I'm very young at this point. I'm like 12 or something. So, following that, my parents decide to not move to a new province, but move to another part of town. And I ended up having to switch elementary schools when they did this. So, I think it was fifth grade, starting at a new school. And, I actually probably peaked at this age. I probably peaked when I was like 12 and 13 because I somehow ended up dating and by dating, I mean like this girl kissed me once. Like there wasn't very little formality. I don't really know how it even happened. I just existed and it all like fell into my lap. So, a very awkward situation though because nobody else in my class had any kind of like relationship. So, I had boys and girls that would like I'd be constantly getting like questioned by like the guys that I knew about it, and like she'd like utilize like her friends to like tell me things, like act as like ambassadors or something. It was very odd, and that'll end up being that'll come up again in this story. So, my mother, like I mentioned in a previous video, has like this obsession, this knack with always like sticking her nose where it doesn't belong. Like very Jewish behavior, if I'm being frank. And what she decided to do, my mother had no interest in no interest in like participating with the school type stuff until I started interacting with this girl. And now all of a sudden my mother wants to she's working on like the parent volunteer board of the school, helping plan like field trips and all this other stuff. And I come to find out that the whole purpose of her doing this is because the girl I was interacting with, her mom, okay, was also on this kind of committee for the school. So my mom had ulterior motives of like going there. And this girl was from like a like devoutly religious family, like as close to the trad wife kind of thing as you can get. And for what it's worth, I actually liked her. Her name was Alana, and this girl kind of imprinted on me and like set the type of girl that I'll be like attracted to for the rest of my life. And like I'm honestly kind of tearing up even talking about this stuff because the whole thing is just rough. So my mother decides that she's going to have this girl's mother over to our house, okay? And by this point, I had already adopted sitting on the PC for insane hours a day, uh, every moment that I can, because who knows when I'm gonna move again, and I'm not expecting anything to last. So, what goes along with the internet, of course, when you're a young man, is copious use of pornography, and I'm sure my parents weren't ignorant of this, which is what makes my mother doing this even more ridiculous. Is we only had a family PC at the time that we'd all have to like share, and my mother decided it would be a good idea to get on the family PC with this girl's mom and go to Google, go to Google search, not clear internet history or anything, and she's typing shit in, and the recommended searches are coming up. Like big boobs, the sort of stuff a 12-year-old boy's gonna look up. Okay, and I'm sure that this like repulsed her mother. Okay, I'm sure she didn't like it, and I'm sure that that was the intent of my mother doing this. Okay, because my mother is like a brown-eyed, brown-haired, like Jewess. Okay, and this girl was like blonde hair, blue eyes. Okay, my mother just couldn't stand it. And this is a problem with my mother and my sister in general. Is like they're very they're very like hateful towards women that are not like the same phenotype as them. They won't befriend them. They hate them. They view them as like competition. So my mother goes about doing everything she can to sabotage this relationship, and somehow it holds together. I think it's the usual effect of, girls hardly ever listen to their parents anymore. So it may have even worked in my favor that her mother didn't like me anymore after that. But it didn't last, because what ended up happening is, the way school works here is elementary school ends after 7th grade, and then you go to high school for the remainder, 8 to 12. So population of an elementary school in my town is about 250, 350 kind of kids. So it was easy to be, like big fish in a small pond kind of scenario in that sort of thing. And get to the high school next year, I wouldn't call it dating, but that's what we called it at the time, this girl. And my value plummeted in the high school, because all of a sudden I'm not like the 7th grader, and the hypergamy kicks in, and you have like seniors hitting on your girlfriend. They have like several years of development. Some of them have money. A lot of them are more attractive than you. And to add insult to injury, um, of all the 8 classes that I had that semester, I didn't get a single one with her. None. And this leads me to a topic I'd like to cover in the future. I think that there's eugenic practices that go on in the school system. I think that I've seen TikToks and YouTube shorts of teachers talking about shipping students together and making people sit together that they think would make a good couple on the seating plan. And I wouldn't be surprised if this idea goes much further, to where you can just get stuck in a cock block class block where you don't get put with any girls. Your seating arrangement won't put you with any. If a teacher decides that they don't like you, they very well may have the power to keep you incel throughout all of high school. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that this is the case. And I didn't get any classes with her. I have no way of really interacting with her. And on top of this, this was a time when cell phones were first becoming popular in school. And what happened with this whole thing is that parents viewed cell phones as a way to like stay in touch with their daughter, okay? Like it's like a safety thing, Their daughter can always call them if she's in trouble or needs help or something. So every girl in high school had a cell phone immediately. The second it became semi-affordable, and it wasn't something that only like CEOs had like in their car, uh, the girls all had cell phones, and only a minority of guys got them. Maybe at first it was maybe a little less than half of guys had a cell phone. Guys that were from well-to-do families, they all had one. Um, and as a result, it's kind of like with the introduction of dating apps or social media. Like, you either have one or you don't. And once people adopt that new means of communicating with one another, it's very difficult to break in. And my parents were, they not only poor but also stingy. So I didn't get a cell phone until probably my last year of high school, and by then it's very much too late. So people could call me ungrateful or whatever, but it's hard, man. It's hard because even if I accept that my parents were trying, I don't think that they were. Uh, they didn't try hard enough. If you're gonna be poor, move somewhere where you're around other poor people. Don't try and play this keeping up with the Joneses lifestyle where you can't afford it. You're gonna alienate your kids, and that's what happened to me. So I remember having this gut feeling one day because I hadn't seen my girlfriend in like a week or two, and people were giving me like weird looks at school. Like I don't really know why. I assume it's because they knew something that I didn't. And this girl did what she often did. She had three or four of her friends, all these girls that I went to school with in elementary, come and seek me out and go, "Oh, Alana wants to talk to you." And my parents' marriage was already on the fritz. Were like discussing divorce at this point. So I was kind of like, I kind of seen the writing on the wall, so to say. And I figured that, you know, it's better to be the one doing the breaking up than the one broken up with. And I maintain that to this day because what I told her friends when they came to do that is kind of I thought it was like a Chad move at the time. Um, I told them like if she can't like talk to me herself, like then I think we should just break up. And they all looked kind of shocked, but I didn't. They didn't like disagree or anything, which kind of tells me that that was probably like the purpose of that conversation. It's since become a meme, where we need to talk. It's never good with women. A woman says we need to talk. Like when does that ever turn out well for anybody? I don't think it ever does. So I never seen her again after that. My school had about 1,500 people. I don't know if she went out of her way to avoid me or whatever, but part of me still wonders if that was the purpose of that conversation. Um, I suspect that it was. So years later, I was about like 27. I worked for Amazon doing deliveries briefly, and I actually got sent to do a delivery at her parents' house, and her dad answered the door, and I think he recognized me because he had like this expression of contempt on his face. I was very polite, like I do give good customer service when I've worked these sort of jobs, even if I don't personally enjoy it, but now he was not like happy to see me. I think he views me as having like damaged his daughter or something, even though like, I never had sex with this girl. I never did anything sexual with her. She kissed me once, and it wasn't like a makeout session. It was like a peck on the lips, okay? So, I do apologize, though, because I feel like I would have handled it differently, if I wasn't soured on relationships by my parents at that point. It's one of those things where maybe when we die, or I'd love when I die to at least be able to have all these kind of unknown things from my life answered. Things that I was curious about and I never knew why they happened the way they did. But after that, like I kind of swore off girls. I figured like I'm a poor loser. And my teeth are fucked up. I come from like a broken home. I have no idea how normal relationships are even supposed to work. So I'm stuck in this situation where like the only girls I get into relationships anymore with seem to be like very sexually overt kind of sluts that do all the initiation and everything else, and I just kind of like let it happen because I don't know what an appropriate like forwardness from a man even looks like, and you can't trust women to give you a truthful answer. So after the whole Atlanta thing, I ended up with this like Vietnamese girl named Lisa, who, to be honest, like I had her in the friend zone for like years. I didn't have any classes with Alana, but I got stuck in a couple classes with Lisa, and she was honestly kind of like a whore already. You're 13, 14, and this girl's like you, sexually experienced. Okay, And the only reason this girl even liked me, I played on the basketball team with this kid named Malcolm. And me and Malcolm both at the time looked kind of similar. We were like kind of the few guys in our grade with blonde hair. And Malcolm moved away, and he was dating Lisa prior to that. And within a couple weeks of Malcolm moving away, she like basically asked me out, like asked if I was seeing anybody or whatever. And I gave her a chance, even though I wasn't really like attracted to her. Like, the whole interracial stuff doesn't really appeal to me personally. I really only like white girls. Um, it's not to say that other races of women can't be attractive. I've had friends that put me on to like K-pop, for example, and a lot of the girls in K-pop are like very hot, honestly. But at the same time, it's like culturally incompatible, and I don't want to spawn a little like Elliot Rodger by getting with an Asian girl. And for any Asian guys that might be listening to this, like, don't worry about it, okay? I don't abuse my just be white anymore because it's not worth it. The whole passport bro thing, I figured out that like Asian girls are not all they're cracked up to be when I was like 14. They're not really any different than white girls once they're westernized in terms of their behavior. So the cracks started to show with this relationship like pretty early on. I had my first and only, I should say, real kiss with this girl, and she basically just stuck her tongue down my throat. And looking back on it, I probably would have declined because there's no way of knowing where that mouth had been before it ended up uh, doing that. So, um, this girl had like money. She was kind of from like a rich family, so her parents owned like a restaurant chain, and I had no way of like matching that at all. I just felt like very impotent. My parents wouldn't let me get a job. Uh, my mother would insult me even though I was a straight A student. I wanted to get a paper route when I was a kid, and she basically spat in my face and told me that I can't get a paper route because I wouldn't do it and she'd have to do the paper route. So I just got to spend my whole childhood like destitute and poor. Part of me wonders if, there's not another reason she didn't want me to get the paper route. Uh, child kidnappings or something. My mother's involved with some really shady people, so wouldn't surprise me if, she knew not to let her kid out doing something like that. Um, so yeah, I was with Lisa for like a year or two or something like that, and the first red flag was she was at some kind of party or something that I didn't get invited to. And she called me and she was like very obviously drunk. And I just hung up on her because I didn't want to listen to her. And like looking back on this, like she was probably fucking some guy there, man. And like wanted to humiliate me. Kids get very vicious very early on nowadays. They have all this shit in their head from watching porn. And the people that don't have morals enact all the cuckold shit on like whoever they can just to get off on it. So this is another reason I don't like interacting with women anymore because they either have a boyfriend or, they're going to try and make you the third wheel to get off on it with another guy, and I'd rather have nothing than that. So I started looking at her differently after this, and she showed up to school one day and she like wanted to talk to me or whatever, and she had like smeared on the lipstick, and I'm like wondering why she fucking smeared on this lipstick, and she's trying to cover up like a huge like cold sore, like herpes on her lip. And I don't judge people for having like cold sores or stuff because a lot of people get them from like their whore mothers. It can't really be avoided, you share a glass with the wrong person, you don't necessarily have to be like a whore to get these, but at the same time, like the fact that she would try to hide it is understandable, but like not respectable, if you know what I mean. So this girl got like very it was a very like one-sided thing. Like I couldn't touch her at any time I wanted. Like if I tried to like hold hands with her or something, she wouldn't do it. So I remember that school year ended, and she she called my house because I still didn't have a cell phone, and she asked me on the phone like if we could take a break for the summer because she was going back to her hometown and like wanted to do what she wanted to do there. And uh, anybody who's been in this community knows that like by the time a woman basically asks you for an open relationship, she's already had one. She's just tired of hiding it. So I told her that, that sounds great. Another Chad moment. I was a lot more Chad when I was a kid than I am now. Now I'm just a depressed sack of shit. Um, I told her that if she, that's perfect actually, and we don't have to break up temporarily. I told her let's make it permanent, and I hung up on her. And my mother is of course like a traitor. I don't know what's wrong with this woman. Um, but for like the next year or two, like this dumb gook girl would call my house like every day, trying to get a hold of me, and my even more retarded mother would bring me the phone because Lisa is on the phone crying. Okay, like I'm supposed to feel bad for the cheating whore. My mother feels bad for the cheating whore, and like keeps like rubbing it in. So I I don't want anything to do with this girl, man. And I feel like I was this girl's backup plan. Like she didn't actually like me really. I was the whole things things begin things end how they begin, I should say. You know, I started as a backup plan for Malcolm and I ended as a backup plan for whatever she had going on in her hometown or wherever else. And this girl was like very and every this girl was so annoying because she'd ask me out all the time, and it would be the context of a date, okay? Like a girl that you previously made out with that you dated in high school. She'd like call me up and oh hey, do you want to go to the mall? I'd be like, okay. And I assume like we're going to the mall, it's kind of like a date, right? I show up there and no, she brought her like cousin. So I'm like third wheeling her and her cousin. Surprise. And act I didn't interact with her again for like a year after that. And I dropped out of school um at the beginning of the new year after that summer because I got put in a class with Lisa after she pulled the "can we break up for the summer" shit. And I my mother had sprung the divorce rape at this point, and I'm not gonna sit in a class for 6 months with a girl that tried to humiliate me like that. That was the last day I ever went to school. I I seen her in the hallway heading to that class, and we made eye contact, and I did a 360 and walked away. Okay, I walked right out of the school, went home, and I told my principal that week that I wasn't going anymore. And they give you the warnings and everything, but y- they didn't even really try to talk me out of it, which was funny. You know, you think that they would, but this is actually one of the few decisions I made in my life that I really don't regret. School was a big waste of time, and Mom, leave me alone. I'm really busy. I don't want to talk to you right now. I'm busy. Leave me alone, please. Anyways, this is what I mean. Like, I'm sure my mother is listening to me the whole time that I have this conversation. And she has a washroom in the master bedroom that she chooses not to use, and she instead uses my sister's bathroom that is connected by an air vent to my bedroom. So I can't even talk, like I've got my door shut, there's another door shut between me and this, and she sits there and she probably just listens to everything I say through the air vent. And now she's screaming at me to move out or whatever, but this is really just the story of my life. So she's just having a tantrum, but I'm used to it by now. So when it comes to dropping out of school was a good idea because school really wastes your time. I finished 11th and 12th grade online in about 2 months. And I wish that I had been able to do that for the rest of my schooling. I would have had a lot more free time and I wouldn't have been subject to a lot of the like dumb shit that I eventually had to deal with. So, I don't regret that at all. You know, if you're in a similar situation and you're somewhat academically competent, you can teach yourself out of a workbook or an online course. I think that it's the right decision, kind of homeschooling yourself if your parents don't want to do it. You know, if you're not a high tier guy, or you are, but you're kind of a mental cell, I think that's the right call. Because rather than getting damaged by these kind of interactions when you're young, you'll uh, you'll be able to maintain a lot more of your sanity, self-respect, and you won't be getting blindsided by all these situations while you're young. So, after I dropped out, my mother tried to set me up with like a friend of hers daughter, and this this girl was like a behavioral clone of my mother. It was about like 15 or something, and this girl was like not my type. I remember like it was a very awkward kind of thing. Like she came from like a single mother. My mother's a single mother, and they tried to do this like date where like we go to a restaurant and this I don't remember this girl's name. It was a very like very one time thing, and I'm like a goody two shoes type person, okay? Like I was concerned academically, like I would have never even smoked weed if I didn't get peer pressured into it. I'd never even drank. And my mother like brings me there to this girl's house before we go get food. And this girl is like smoking cigarettes. Okay, and I don't my mother smokes cigarettes, so any girl that smokes is an immediate turn off. I don't like girls that remind me of my mother because there's not a whole lot that I enjoy about her. You know, I want like the furthest thing that from her, to be honest. So, and on top of that, like girls that smoke is just like a turn off to me. I don't think women should be allowed to use any substances, honestly. They're not like they're not in control of their faculties when they're sober, let alone when they're intoxicated. So mind altering substances, unless it's like a quaalude or something that just like zonks them out so they can't be all aggressive, uh I don't think they should be allowed to use anything. But so this girl's like chain smoking cigarettes the whole time, and it's just like a big turn off to me because a girl that smokes cigarettes at age 15 is a girl that can't buy her own cigarettes, and she has to have somewhere to get these cigarettes. And where does a 15-year-old girl get cigarettes? Either her mother is giving her the cigarettes, which, is not a kind of situation I want to get involved with. Somebody's like low class, retarded mother like that acting that way. Um, or this girl is like getting them from guys, older guys that can buy them. and neither of those are attractive propositions to me. So I was gonna be respectful, but like I was not like interested in this girl. And this would have been back, if I was 15 then, it would have been back in about like 2010-ish. And I remember we got to our destination, and I like jumped out of the car and I went and, like, opened the door for this girl. And I still remember to this day, like, the disgusted scowl that was on her face. Like, she was like sickened at the idea that I'd like opened this door for her. Like, horrified. So the whole like nice guys are pieces of shit thing had already like really crept in at this point. So whatever, we ate dinner. I told my mom I didn't want to see her again, and there was no like complaints on that front, so I'm assuming it was mutual. And I remember, I think this girl's mom and my mom remained friends, and I still remember one day, like after my parents had divorced, my brother like was asleep on the kitchen couch instead of like the living room next to the kitchen instead of going to school. He had followed suit and refused to go to school after this. And my mom like tried to like bring this girl's mom over to our house to like lecture my brother into going to school. And I still remember this lady woke my brother up, and he just he just says to her point blank in her face, like, "What the hell do you think you're doing, you fucking N-word?" And I still laugh about that to this day. That he and the look on this woman's face when some teenage boy, she was like white by the way, some teenage boy just point blank calls her the N-word. It was still like one of the funniest things to me. So while this was all kind of going on, I did have kind of a male friend group at school, and you know, there's all this talk about guys being beta orbiters or whatever, and uh, and how women all want to share the top guy. But in high school, it was kind of like the inversion of this for me, where I had a friend group of about 10 guys that all got into like smoking weed, and like one girl that did. And this was like a Latina girl who's named like Dakota, and like it was obvious, like every guy in our friend group like wanted this girl. And like for what it's worth, she was nice, but I think she knew what she was doing in terms of manipulating guys, because she had an older sister that kind of showed her like how to do it, and like she was all very like attractive to begin with. So this girl kind of like worked her way through our friend group, and by the time I like got a chance, I wasn't last, but I wasn't first. I'd kind of like lost interest, you know, and I was still like nice to her because it's the whole like pre-selection idea. I didn't have a word for it at the time, but I realized that like being seen with this girl would make me attractive to other girls. So I remember though that for a period of time I was like walking her home from school, and one day she like didn't want me to do it anymore. She picked some other guy from my class to walk her home. And I this kid was just like dark triad. Like he's smoking cigarettes, he's doing pain pills in like 10th grade. He's carrying a knife on him. And I'm not trying to get stabbed for a girl. You know what I mean? So like whatever. You know, it kind of broke my heart a little bit, but my heart had already been broken by that point. So it didn't sting that bad. And eventually this girl like came kind of crawling back in the sense of looking for her like orbiter. Couldn't like figure out why I like did the slow fade after that interaction. And I forget how we got on the topic. I know that I didn't bring it up. I didn't ask her. I wasn't that forward or anything when I was a kid, but we were like, I think waiting for the bus after school because we missed the first one. We had to like wait half an hour or something for the next one. And she started talking about how, she got like sexually assaulted. And by this point, like, I'm still like a virgin, okay? And my mother had already lied about like the fake kind of sexual abuse allegations against my father to initiate the divorce rape. So like I was already kind of like questioning at this point how legitimate a lot of these things that women do are. Was she really sexually assaulted, or is she like is this a polite way of saying I'm not a virgin, so don't expect me to be, okay, while maintaining a facade of purity? And I'm inclined to believe that that was the case. If somehow she hears this and that isn't the case, I'm sorry. Women don't deserve to be treated that way. Uh, you know, you shouldn't ever have a guy force himself on you. So if that did actually happen, I'm sorry for that. But uh, I'm at a point, and was even then, that women are lying until proven telling the truth. I think that's one thing that Muslims and Islam really gets right about women, is the idea that uh, it requires multiple women's testimony to equate to the word of one man. And I think that's kind of the right way to do it. It'll never happen here, but to me that makes a lot of sense, because women will lie about just about anything, but especially if you're not a rich guy where they can get a lot of money lying about you, and it's a little bit harder to get a group of them to lie about you together. So, for what it's worth, Dakota was a nice girl, but she was never really that into me. I was more into her, and the competition was too stiff. Like, every guy wanted this girl, and I had no ability to compete. I had no money. I had these like helicopter parents, like how my mother came and just decides to interrupt this. Uh, they don't like, what am I supposed to do, man? I can't bring this girl back to my house. I have no money to do anything with her outside of my house. I don't have drugs. I don't even have a cell phone. So like, what am I supposed to do? And I think that kind of the final nail in the coffin with this girl is, I remember the last time I walked her home from school. She wanted me to meet her older sister. And her older sister was like not like her. Like, she was like, Dakota was like very pretty. Okay, like very pretty, very feminine, and her like sister was kind of not. She was like a chunky, like grouchy looking bitch. And I could tell right away that this like her older sister didn't like me. And sure enough, like, that was the last time that I ever kind of interacted with Dakota, really. So there was the one time I mentioned where like we somehow ended up waiting for the bus together and she started talking to me. But like, that was the real last time I ever talked to her, because she said she had been sexually assaulted, and I think I said something like, "That sucks. I'm still a virgin." And I just stood up and like walked away. And I ran into her times after that, but she just gave me like this look, like made it clear like she didn't want to talk to me, and that's fine. It's mutual at that point, you know. Like I said, I'm sorry if anything happened to her, but you run with the wrong crowds of guys, and it's all fun and games until one of the bad boys, hurts you. And I'm not Mr. Humpty Dumpty. I'm not coming along to pick up the pieces after another guy destroys you. I'd rather have nothing than a girl that another man broke. So, I think around this time, Lisa tried to, I don't know, she'd like reach out to me. I had been out of school for a year or two, and she like randomly texted me out of the blue. And, I think she just really wanted to show off that she'd like gotten her license in a car, and I'm like poor, so I didn't have one at the time. And I don't know, I was like confused because I don't do platonic friendships with women. Okay, like I don't have anything in common with women, really. So there's not really a point in, platonic relationships with one. So I accepted because I was more just like curious what she wanted. You know what I mean? Like I thought maybe I'd get some like closure or something out of it. And I asked her like point blank. I was like, "So what? Like you want to get back together?" And she like laughed and like said no. I was like, okay. And she didn't stay there very much beyond that, but kind of like just told her to like leave or whatever, and that was fine. And then she did the same thing like years later. It's like 19 or 20, and she texts me out of the blue again. Like I think she's just kind of keeping tabs on me because I didn't have like a social media profile, and I think maybe she had some doubts because I kind of had I had the Sigma grind set, the the gorilla mindset, the bulldog mentality, all this like bullshit. You know, I had abundance mentality when I told her like let's make it permanent. And I think like how well I took her wanting to like break up with me for the summer left like a doubt in her mind that she made the right decision. So she just periodically check in over the years to like confirm that I was still a loser and that she didn't miss out on anything. So years later, like she does the same thing again, asks me if I want to like get coffee and go to like a coffee shop, and they seat us at like a booth at the place, and the place is like very busy. I think she intentionally picked a place that was like very busy so that like I don't know, like that I would have to like I was never like rude or anything, you know what I mean? I didn't raise my voice, I didn't insult any of these girls or anything like that. But I think she intentionally picked a place that was very busy so that if I had some sort of a negative reaction to something that was said, I couldn't, or it would be very uncomfortable for me to like make a scene about it. So they seat us at like a booth, and I ask her, I'm like, do you want me to like sit on the same side as you, or like should I sit across from you? She tells me like I can sit on the same side as her. That's fine. And we talked for like a little bit, just like about like what lives had been like up to that point. And I asked her like, so like, is this a date? Like, what is this? And she says that it's not a date. And I said, okay. So I just stood up, I paid my bill, and walked home. And she never reached out to me again after this. I don't know. I think maybe she like got the point when I like walked out on her. But I don't know what's with these women. They're very like I think I kind of have like a kind of mystery in the sense that if you don't know that I'm a total loser, I can kind of cast an illusion that I'm like cool or something or mysterious from the outside looking in. So women will weasel their way into my life to try and like figure out like what I actually am. So trying to think. So the next girl I had any amount of interaction with would have been one that I worked with, and I don't remember her name because I was very much in the mentality of like, you don't want to like shit where you eat, so they say, with like relationships. I have a different opinion on that now, but because I worked with this girl, I didn't want to like fuck up um like my work by like trying to like do anything with her. But I was walking she was like the new girl at my work, and my boss put us on like a shift together, and we were like had to like close down the factory we were working at afterwards. And I went to like walk home, and she asked me if I wanted a ride, and I told her like, if it's not out of your way, that's very nice, kind of thing. And she gave me a ride to like my place. I had like a small kind of apartment with my brother at the time, and I could kind of tell like she wanted me to at least ask her like to if she wanted to come in or something. And I would have, like, she was a nice girl or whatever, and not talking shit to her at all, but like my life had already like fallen apart so much at that point. She's giving me this look like, oh well, aren't you gonna invite me in? And in my head I'm thinking, man, like, me and my brother are slobs, dude. Like, I have so many dirty dishes, like, in this house. Like, I have literally a bathtub full of dirty dishes that like, I had to move them there so I could, like, use the kitchen sink. Because, like, we're both too lazy to do them. We're too, like, depressed. So, what if she asks to use the washroom? How am I gonna explain this, like, bathtub full of, like, dirty dishes? And, I realized that this is, like, like I can't like for guys that haven't had opportunities. I do feel for you because I don't pretend to share the same level of suffering. This is just we're all the main characters of our own story, and I I do I think I'm largely like a mental cell case, but I'm. I hope I'm not coming across as annoying talking about this stuff, because this isn't like I'm not trying to humble brag or anything. This is just my experiences with women. Hopefully somebody sees some parallels with what they're going through, and they can apply some of the knowledge. So this girl I was working with, I worked with her for like a year or so, and she was nice the whole time. And I think that it was kind of a propinquity situation where I was fortunate enough to kind of work with her one on one for a long time, and she kind of like grew to like me because of the familiarity thing. Like Hell by the Dashboard Light says, like, girls date who they know. So I knew her, and this could be totally like delusions of my imagination. But if somehow you're that girl that worked at that ice factory with me, then you know I hope I'm not dragging you through the mud by mentioning you here. So yeah, so it was like a seasonal job. So I found out that she would not be returning after that for the next season of work. And I figured like, okay, well, now's my opportunity to like, we're not going to be working together anymore. So if this gets awkward, then there's not as much going to be as much fallout. So I did like the cringe thing at the time. I thought I was like super suave or something. So I like wrote her like a poem, and I remember I seen her like after that, and she looked like horrified, like fucking. I seen her in traffic, and she like fucking like looked at me and like fucking stood on the gas pedal and sped off in the other direction. Don't write things for women, dudes. They don't like that, apparently. So learn from that. Don't make the same mistake I did. And this next story is going to be like one of my schizo fables. So this is if you experience similar things, then just know that I know. For everyone else, this is an artistic work of fable and falsehood, not to be taken seriously. So I detailed cars for like 3 or 4 years, and I worked for like some boomers, and the the guys were like okay at first. It's like any job, though. There's eventually familiarity breeds contempt. So the rose tinted goggles kind of wear off after you're there a while, and you start kind of realizing like what you don't like about a place, what you don't like about certain people. And at first, I was detailing cars with this other guy. We were kind of like a two-man team. There'd be like two cars in the bay at a time, you know, or there'd be one, and we'd like bang it out really quick. And this guy eventually got fired because he just kept like missing too many days of work. And looking back on it, it was like a very kind of shitty job. Like it paid minimum wage. You worked in a very noisy work environment because the detailing bay was adjacent to the mechanic bays, and they had a giant air compressor that would be running to power all the tools in the mechanic bay. And it would run like all day long. Like you had to wear like earplugs. And there was no AC, so it would get very, very hot in the summer. A very unpleasant situation. But I stuck it out for a long time because it was kind of the first job I had other than that factory where I didn't have to like interact with people, you know? I was just cleaning cars, and I'd rather clean cars in very uncomfortable conditions than interact with people in an air-conditioned location. You know, maybe some of you can relate. And I think employers kind of like take advantage of these sort of people where they see that you don't want to interact with people, and they kind of pay you by not making you do that. I remember the worst parts of that job that I always hated was when I'd be cleaning a car, and one of my boomer bosses would like bring in some couple that's like shopping for a car to show them, oh, this one that we just got on the lot that so and so is cleaning. And I'd have to pretend that I'm not like this pathetic subhuman, like working a job way below what I consider my station. Um, while some guy is like there with his like hot girlfriend or something, like buying a car for her. Like it was really suicide fuel. So eventually they somehow they call in a favor or something, and they a girl that used to work there for them is like hired back. I'm gonna die here. Oh no. Is hired back at that location, and this girl was like a year older than me, and this will end up being a cautionary tale of like you want to avoid single moms, man. You really do, because they're not any better than women that don't have them for really any reason at all. And for what it's worth, like this girl was cute or whatever, but she would have been a lot cuter 10 years ago, if you catch my drift. Uh, she was on her way out. Okay, she didn't have very many years of being like fuckable left, and she like laid it on me like pretty like heavy. Okay, like we'd be like detailing a car together, and this girl would like put her hand on top of mine and let it linger there for like what felt like an eternity, but probably like 5 seconds, and then go oops, and like pull it back or whatever and go back to working. Okay, and the whole time that she's doing this, she has 2 kids with a guy who she's like dating, and that guy has 2 kids of his own. Okay, and she's doing this all while she has the other guy. Okay, like I'm basically, I got like the work husband position, if you've heard of that meme. Okay, and this chick like starts like fucking sitting in my lap on break. Okay, stuff like that. But like at this point, dude, I just felt good like rejecting girls. Like I didn't want to. I was like in my migtard phase at this point. I was going my own way. Okay, I was focused on whatever, like grind set. If I just wash enough cars, I'll be able to get the girl eventually, I guess. And she started like humiliating her boyfriend in front of me. Like this guy was like unemployed or whatever, and he'd like call and ask her like he'd be at like the grocery store and he'd be like asking her for permission to like buy a loaf of bread. Okay. So like I think she was the only one working, but it's also a situation where like you as a man look so pathetic, like calling up a girl, like asking for permission to spend a few dollars because you don't have them. Like it's not a good look. And she'd like put him on speaker for no reason, like so I could hear this. And I was just like kind of grossed out by the whole thing of like A, that she's like showing this guy, but B, that like this is the sort of guy that women pick. Like they pick these guys that just like I don't want to say good for nothing, but like what business does that guy have having 4 kids when he can't even like do anything? Like the guy's like a vegetable that somehow is not retarded. So after like enough of this, like I don't even remember like the conversation. I just remember this girl like starting to take her breaks at like the same time as me and like all this other shit. And uh honestly, it felt good like being around her. Not because she was like a good person, but like if you guys have ever experienced this, you'll kind of know what I'm talking about. When you're around like an attractive girl, you kind of turn into like Superman. Your body like gives you all this extra energy. I had like I felt like the Energizer Bunny. I could have gone forever. Like 16-hour days, 20-hour days, no sleep. Yeah, no problem. And I'd go in on Saturdays just so I could like work with her a little bit more because it felt like so good to be around a girl. And obviously like this is pathetic behavior. I'm not recommending this to anybody. So don't get that perspective. It's just I'm trying to give an accurate retelling of these events. And while this is all going on, this girl started doing some like incredibly sus stuff, okay? Her kids were all like very young. Okay, I'm not attracted to prepubescent children. Okay, people can accuse me of being a pedophile because I'll admit that I think some 16-year-old girls can be hot, but that doesn't mean that I find like 10-year-olds attractive. I think those guys unironically need to go into like a wood chipper. Okay, and what this girl started doing is she started bringing a picture of her husband's daughter that wasn't from like their relationship, and it was like the most fucking it was a picture of this girl wearing like a fucking tutu in like a ballet class or something, okay? And she'd leave this picture on the shelf in like our working area where I would put my like wallet and phone and keys so they're not in my pocket while I'm like working on stuff. And she'd leave it right beside that, okay? And the first time that I seen this picture, my brain was like exploding because A, why would she be doing this? So I tried to look for like every explanation possible for why she'd be doing this shit. And I think that this is where a lot of child abuse comes from, where these women realize that their looks are like fading. They don't have a lot of options, and they will try to leverage their children to keep a guy around and in their life. Okay, if women will abort a child so that they can continue riding the cock carousel, I think a lot of women have no problem with letting their kid get molested or something so that they can continue having an easy life. So that's the conclusion that I drew from this because first of all, she had 4 kids, but would only bring that one incredibly sus picture of the other kid, the kid that belonged to her boyfriend. Okay. And when I seen this, I flipped the picture upside down, okay, so I don't have to fucking look at it when I go to grab my shit. And hopefully she took a hint, but this is the level of inappropriate that these women get to. Okay. And this whole story sounds like schizo. I'm sure there'll be people that tell me that like I'm insane and I'm reading into it too much, but you got to ask yourself, why would she be doing that? Okay, why are you bringing a picture of one of your 4 kids, not even the one that's biologically yours, and leaving it in like a communal work area? Okay? And on top of that, it's like an inappropriate picture, basically. Okay? So my interactions with this girl really tapered off after she started doing that, because I ain't into that shit, and what little bit of respect I had for her like evaporated. So it was about this time, like, I didn't want to quit my job because I wasn't necessarily confident that I was going to get another one. So, and other than her, I hadn't grown completely fed up with the job yet. She was the only thing of it that I really kind of disliked. So I was just going to stick it out. I figured, she'd eventually move on, go somewhere else. And about this point, like, my truck broke down that I was using to get to and from work. And, my truck is probably my best friend. Uh, it it never left me stranded other than like very small situations. It'll break down right by my house or whatever. But it almost feels like it was like giving me a message. It wanted to like show my truck wanted to give me a message about this girl, okay? Because after a couple I'm always like insistent. I always want to fix my own truck because mechanics are expensive. You can't trust them to do a good job, and I always wanted to learn. I always wanted to feel like very competent with this sort of thing. And when it broke, yeah, I could have spent a couple $100 to get it like fixed, but up to that point, every time it had broke, I wanted to fix it myself, and I had been sticking with that. So I just rode my bike to work for a couple weeks, and the weather was good. I was like losing weight, so I figured like, what's the point in really rushing the truck repair? I'll take my time. I'll do some other stuff while I'm working on it, and I'll just keep riding the bike. Well, the second I started riding a bike to work, this girl started treating me like very differently. I think she viewed me as like a provider type up to that point, looking back on it. But as soon as my truck broke and I stopped like driving to work every day, I think the image of my competency evaporated in her mind because she immediately kind of monkey branched to one of my coworkers, and I still laugh about this guy because I've seen this guy since. This guy is like, of course he's a Jew, right? Like, wear the Jew star to work, make a big deal out of it. Like, shocking, not surprising, right? And I made the mistake of even telling this guy that like I'm like a loser, I'm like an incel prior to that, and this guy thought he was better than me. He had some like fat whale girlfriend, so this girl kind of like being all over me at work, I'm sure like pissed him off. So when he got the opportunity to step into my shoes there, he took it. And this girl decided she's gonna start getting rides home from work with this guy rather than driving to work. And I've been through the rigmarole with women and them playing favorites with men, and I know that I'm not gonna fight some guy for a girl. Okay, like if she's making you fight for her like that, she doesn't really want you. Okay, it's like an amusement thing for her, an ego gratification. Okay, she wants to feel like there's guys like fighting over her or something. And so when I realized like that that's what she's doing, um, I went and put in my 2 weeks. And this is a black pill on the workplace as well. You don't give these boomers your 2 weeks, okay? They don't give you 2 weeks when they fire you. They don't give you raises. They're not doing you any favors unless you want unless you're really desperate for a recommendation from them. Don't give your 2 weeks. You're only going to hurt yourself like I did doing it. So I told these guys, that I'm putting in my 2 weeks, and the reason I gave for putting in my 2 weeks is that while I was talking to this girl, she told me that she was actually making more money than I was, even though I was doing all the like difficult aspects of the job, and I've been working there for longer than her. And I told them it's like really insulting. So I gave them the ultimatum of they can either bump my pay up to what she's making and pay me the difference in wages that I missed out on, that I would have made if I had been making what she was making since she started. And I figured that, this is win-win. Either I quit a job and get away from this like evil kind of witch, or I get a nice cash injection, right? Win-win. Try to make the make make lemonade out of lemons that life gives you. So, uh, my boomer bosses responded to this by calling me into the main like lobby of the business where every single person was on break. They called this girl in and basically grilled me about why I wanted to quit in front of like this giant audience. And the one advantage of growing up in a dysfunctional household is that you're not so easily flustered by like kind of these normie power plays like this. I think they were expecting me to really like back down and get like very timid once the peer pressure was on, but I doubled down instead. Like I asked my boomer boss, I was like, like how the justification he gave for this girl making more money than me was that, she had seniority. She was older than me. And basically she needed it because she has kids, was the implication. And when I'm applying to jobs in the future, I'm going to lie. I'm going to say that I have children. I'm going to reject wage offers and tell them that like, oh, that's a fair amount, I suppose, but I have mouths to feed. I have a fiance and I've got she's pregnant with twins or something like that. I'm going to tell them that to get these boomers to take me more seriously in terms of wage, because they don't like paying single men. They think that, something's got to give and it's going to be you. And I ain't playing that game anymore. So I told my boomer boss that seniority is a set of moving goalposts in the distance. Okay? Like, I'm not. That's not acceptable. And I asked him why he doesn't pay people. Like, I gave the benefit of the doubt. I asked him why he doesn't pay people the same for doing the same job. We weren't doing the same job. I was doing all the unpleasant aspects, all the actual hard work. Okay, she was good at her job. This isn't to disparage her or whatever, but like the actual hard stuff, like polishing the vehicles, like that's everything I was doing. Okay, like I was the one cleaning out the disgusting like drain in the wash bay that would get clogged up every 2 weeks, would smell like fucking a sewer, and you'd have to clean it out so it would drain and you weren't standing in a puddle of water. Like I was doing all that shit. Okay, I was coming in any day that they needed me. I was staying late if they needed me. Okay, I was doing it all. And I asked my boomer boss, like, how long I would have to work here to build up enough seniority to maintain a family. And to his credit, he stumbled for a moment and told me, that would never happen. And I agreed with him. I said, yeah, exactly. So I'm going to go get a real job. And he was like taken aback by this. And I kept it cordial up to that point. I walked out, said thanks for the opportunity, and I went back to work. I finished that day off, and then the next day I went in and told the manager that I actually got along with that given how things went yesterday, I don't really feel obligated uh, to work these 2 weeks. So I'd like to quit now, and he was fine with that. Word of advice, guys, is don't quit. Don't quit like I did. Just start slacking off, doing nothing at work. Make them fire you so you can get unemployment. That was the mistake that I made in this situation. Make them fire you. Always make them fire you. Because I didn't get any employment insurance for after doing this. So I just got away from some people that were making my life miserable, which would have been better to get away with some money. And these boomers, they gave me a call the next day, asking me if I'd like reconsider, and I told them, well, if you want to pay me, I'm willing to come back. And they never did. So I told them no thanks, and that was that. Um, I haven't had too many interactions with girls after that. Um, other than the one that I mentioned in the previous video, the last girl that I asked out. Not something that I will repeat. And yeah, so I'm gonna try and get in shape again, I think. Um, I had more self-respect. It didn't really help with attracting women when I lost weight, but I felt healthier. My cardio was a lot better. I wasn't winded as much. And I thought I looked a lot more attractive, so my confidence was better, even if women didn't really reciprocate. So my plan is I'm gonna start, doing my Doomer night walks again. But this time I'm going to make sure that I have a body cam on, so that I can have peace of mind that if I start getting stalked by girls again, I'll have proof that it's actually happening, and it can't be written off as, me being insane or anything like that. I think it's going to be a win-win situation with that. Either I'll get video proof that I can defend myself, or the fact that I have a recording device on me will be ample deterrent to keep the kind of gang stalking behavior that people like to do at bay. So that's my plan with that. Shout out to Hell by the Dashboard Light too. I had one of his type of experiences the other day here. I was at the Canadian Tire pulling out of the parking lot, and two teen kind of frumpy girls walk by holding each other's hand, kind of like lesbians or whatever. They looked like the kind of mid girls that can't get the guys that they want and cope with being lesbians, Chad sexuals. And I just Held by the Dashboard Light was right is in my head while seeing that, because I can't remember the last time I seen an actual young couple holding hands. And when I do finally see it, it's a homosexual one. So the usual. That's all for now, guys. I'll probably be using some new footage. If I see anything interesting on my night walks, I'll probably, show that here so people can see what I'm kind of dealing with, and maybe some other people realize that I'm not crazy. Hang in there, guys. I don't know if anybody here is kind of spiritual or whatever, but I really do think that unless you're being put under, some form of extreme torture, like you're like a POW or something, suicide is wrong. There's been times where I wanted to kill myself, but I feel like I have to stick this out to the end because I feel like with my luck, I'll get spawned back in this exact same life to do it all over again if I don't. And not a huge Bible believer anymore, but one thing that kind of stuck with me through it is the idea that, the game of life is maybe about enduring until the end. So, with any luck, I won't have a whole lot left to endure, and I hope whatever you guys are going through is, if not pleasant, manageable, something that you can cope with. So, till next time, guys.